All right, we're not going live yet, but we're testing our sound. We got 5 minutes, 4 minutes. So if you're there, leave me a comment, send me a text, say, Nate, I hear your sound, you're golden, and we'll get started in a couple minutes. Sound check. Anybody hear sound? Just let me know. I'm starting in a couple minutes. Sound check, sound check. 1, 2, 3. Anybody got sound? I'm gonna see if I got sound. Anybody got sound? I do got sound. I hear it. Cool. Got a couple minutes and I'm going to go live. Give me a minute. I know you guys got sound. Hopefully you're hearing on Instagram. Can you hear my sound on Instagram? I know you're there. Give me a holla. Come on, Instagram. Get on there. You guys want to hear me? Get on there. All right. 1 minute. All right. Count down. All right, we're ready to go. We got sound, so let's do this thing. Let's see if we can have something going on. All right, Liberty Schmibberty. Tonight we're talking about the quote from Ben Franklin. It's out. It's used in horrible context. I was about ready to talk about that quote in the context of security. I did a little research and realized quickly that the quote was misused. So welcome to Smashing the Party. My name is Nate. This is Nightcap. You know I do this Monday through Thursday, 10:30. I just rant and talk about whatever the hell's on my mind. Today, I'm going to talk about this quote and why it's important to me and kind of where it came about. I'm going to put this on the screen here quick. I got a little bit of whiz bang that I'm going to try for this week. Just a little tiny whiz bang, just like little stuff like this. You know what I mean? I got the quote up. It looks kind of fancy. But let's read this quote. So, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Now, oftentimes that's safety's kind of put security is put in front instead of safety. And so people use this quote in particular. I have been using this quote to make the argument that, hey, look, if you're gonna have liberty, you have to kind of be careful about how much security you have, because security can infringe upon your liberty. In the context of, it's pretty easy to think about, cameras, if you're, everyone wants to be secure, you want to film stuff, they want to have a record of things that happen, except when they're on film. Nobody wants to be filmed, but they want to watch other people do crimes, but nobody really wants to be filmed. And so the idea with that is, we want security, but then obviously, somebody's watching you. All this makes sense if that was the original meaning for the quote. But when you dig into it, and one of the first things that comes up is an article from NPR. If you hate NPR, you're an idiot, because I just came from a comedy show that they put on, and the folks that work there talk about how religiously effective they are at trying to toe the line of being nonpartisan. So if you're listening to NPR and you got problems with it, whether you think it's gone too far left or gone too far right, all I got to say is the fact that that organization is making the effort, kudos. All right, back to the thing. So I found this article that was generated by Ben Witz from the Brookings Institute. They're a think tank. People want to say they're a liberal think tank, whatever you want to say. They're a think tank. They put out ideas that I like, so maybe they are a liberal think tank. But he got an NPR, and he wanted to address this quote directly because of the context of how it's used. My big issue right now is TikTok. I mean, it's not my big issue. It's not my only issue. And by the way, it's not like homelessness, racism, all that stuff. But I mean, the issue I've been talking about that aligns with what's in the media mainstream is TikTok. I want to be clear, that's not the most important issue to me at all, not even close. But it's important to me because of the implications of what it can do to our democracy. Let me get back to the point. So this quote is used to indicate that, look, if you want to try to have this liberal, this freedom that you talk about in America, you have to be careful that you don't have too much security that infringes upon your freedom. A perfect example of this is the Patriot Act. And when 9/11 happened, fear, uncertainty, and doubt were injected into the ether. And so we're all scared. We're all pretty much like, what the fuck do we do? We don't want this to happen again. And so when that happens, everybody kind of gathers together and says, how do we get rid of this fear? And the people that are really kind of, it's oftentimes used as a perfect opportunity to inject your perspective or your agenda. As they say, don't ever let a great crisis go to waste in DC. Because if something bad happens, that means that somebody's going to need something. And so then you're in a position of power. And so it seems like I'm all over the place, but I promise you there's some congruency here. And that is where when we talk about security, we talk about liberty, and we talk about this quote, we're kind of framing it as like, you can't have this freedom and also be secure. And as I said, the Patriot Act's example, so we have security cameras everywhere. Lancaster is actually one of the highest per capita watched places in the world, like camera per person. We have a high ratio. So, we have a somewhat of a security apparatus here. Does it limit our freedom? I don't know. I mean, you can do what you want. I've never heard of somebody saying, oh, we're going to go through the cop video or the videos and start arresting people that did crimes. It's usually used after the fact, right? They're not sitting there watching everybody as they're in real time, or at least I hope not. But it's something that, we have to create more security. A lot of folks that live outside the city were pushing for this when it came because they want to come to the city. We want cameras. We don't feel secure. Of course, we were against it in the city. A lot of people were. The people with money won. So we have that in Lancaster City. But again, when it comes down to brass tacks, it's only used for the police force. They will never, ever give you a video that will incriminate a cop. So I know this from personal experience. So if you are ever in a situation where you want to utilize the cameras from Lancaster City and you think they're going to give you that information and it's going to make their cops look bad, not going to fucking happen. Not even close. This fucking place, these are the blue line folks too. We got them too. So the whole thing that the cameras are providing this security for people, it's for cops, and it's not going to, you're not going to be able to have access to that to argue that they did something wrong. Just going to tell you that if you ever think that that's going to be used in your benefit, no, it's only used post-crime. Fucking write a comment and tell me I'm wrong. Bullshit. I'm not wrong because it's in the record. Lancaster City, they do post. They're not sitting there trying to be preemptive. They're not doing preemptive crime watch. So, but you could argue that that's not really infringing our freedom, right? I mean, the camera, you're doing things as long as you're not doing anything wrong. You know, you're there's no one saying, hey, you can't do that thing. You might do that thing and then get in trouble if you committed a crime. All right. I hope I didn't hit mute there. I hope I was on. I just hit mute. Was I on mute the whole time? I wasn't. All right. So this quote, let me back to this quote. I really had this all ginned up to kind of come at from the TikTok perspective and say, you know, we want security and they're using fear and so forth. But then the quote kind of research tripped me up because I realized that the quote was totally being used out of context. And when I dug in a little further from that NPR article, it turns out that, and then I, not only the article, by the way, I did a little bit more research to see if that article vetted. Of course, I trusted the fact that they had some experts there, but I did a couple Google searches, no, you know, not some librarian level research, but I certainly verified what I was reading. By the way, that's important. I'm jumping around, but that's important. Everything I say here, I'm trying to validate it. Sometimes when I'm doing satire or bullshit, I'm going to make things up. But the truth is, I try to do my best to bring that to you and make it real, or at least validate it so that you don't have to question every fucking thing I say. I mean, obviously you should, but at least I want to try to get some credibility. So when you look into it, you start to realize that that quote was used actually in favor of putting up money from taxation or from the folks and allowing the legislators to use that to provide security. So it actually was kind of the opposite in a way. It's saying, hey, look, you know, we need to have some money. We need to allow the government to be able to collect money to provide security. It just broke me when I read that because I'm like, well, that's cool and all, but that's like a pro-taxation for militarization kind of thread that I didn't want to go down. Hey, look, that's the facts. So I have to go down that road. When I find that information out, I can spin it, which I'm going to add my spin. And you could argue that the quote doesn't lose its value if it's used in a different context because no one else really cares. Or, well, you used that quote in the wrong context and the guy didn't mean that when he said. No one does that when you quote. They read it. Oh, wow, that's cute. By the way, I'm a quote junkie. I love that shit. Reader's Digest. Oh, give me that. Give me those little quotable quotes all day long. I'll just sit there on the can for hours. Anyway. TMI, I know. So I got all wound up about this because I was like, all right, I have this agenda. Again, Nate's got an agenda. And I want to just kind of hammer the idea that the fear factor that's being used to kind of implement this ban. And I'm still going to go down that path. But the quote doesn't, the actual reason for the quote led me down the rabbit hole of realizing that Ben Franklin was trying to insinuate that we should allow the government and the legislators to collect money to provide for security. In the case of why he was writing that, apparently there was a war going on, the Indian American War. Again, history buff, not that guy. So quote me if I'm wrong, but there was a war going on. And so he was looking to get the owners of the land, which was the Penn family, and they were ruling it from afar, apparently, is what the quote said. In the so they were ruling from afar, and they were actually saying, look, we'll give you a lump sum, but it was about the legislator trying to figure out whether they could tax that land and use that to help support the war effort. And so when you look into the kind of nooks and crannies of that quote, you realize that it's actually used as a mechanism. It was actually used to help persuade the assembly that they should use the money and use their powers to extract money from landowners to support the defense of the territory. So I'm just like, oh, all right, great. So Ben Franklin's pro-military industrial complex. I'm losing my shit. I've got this mind focused on the agenda I want to say, and this comes up. But it makes me think about the other, maybe that's when is that when our military industrial complex came about, when we decided that. I'm not going to argue that we don't need a military against it. So, I'm not that guy that's saying, hey, we don't need a good self-defense. But I also will say that I am a proponent of making sure that we never infringe on our liberties, and people have full autonomy on moving about and moving around the world. I would argue that I don't know why I said it 3 times like Trump did, but I think that to me is kind of where I think of how much has security infringed on my liberty. And so when we think about TSA, there was a time where you could just walk right through the airport. Maybe not such a good idea, but do we have to go and remove people's shoes? Well, the fucking shoe bomber did that. There was one time. There's all kinds of little things where we take these huge leaps of security because of small incidents, and we lose valuable time on this planet, or valuable resources, or whatever, or freedoms, one could argue. Now, this may seem a little chaotic and all over the place, but the reason is because the quote fucking threw me off. I wanted that to be the basis for what I was talking about. And then when I dug into it to validate kind of where the context of it, turns out it was kind of a counter argument for another whole separate topic, which made me kind of a little, huffing and puffing and like, where'd my content go? Where'd my content? So I don't know. That wasn't a good impression either. But I do want to kind of hone in on the larger point, which is that, all right, that quote was pro-militarization and pro-taxation, allow the legislators to collect taxes. We need to defend against the Indians. And so this is Native Americans, but again, at the time, they probably called them Indians. Apologies, no disrespect. Again, no disrespect. I'm literally kind of reading the article in my head as I say it. So, but and that's the opposite kind of what I was trying to say today. So when I kind of bury it, when I use a quote and I kind of try to build a story around it and it kind of falls apart, I have a couple choices. I can either drop it and move to something else, or I can talk about that transition and kind of why, and then also kind of share with what I learned. So my goal tonight was just to kind of talk about that, as well as kind of get into what I really want to talk about. But I needed to touch on that because when you dig into something, you learn things, number one, and you also learn that sometimes things have different meanings than what you've just kind of assumed. Everyone assumes that quote means a certain thing. Who would have thought to dig into it? Obviously, NPR did. Obviously, a lot of people have done it. But I've just kind of been using it lazily as something that I can use in an argument without actually knowing the context. And so had I been facing somebody that was, knew the history of that, and I said something that's silly, they could easily swap me aside and say, listen, you have no idea what you're talking about because the context is wrong and it means nothing. And so, and they would be correct. It's nothing, again, right or wrong. It's not about that, but it's about like, all right, when you're putting information in the ether, is it right? Is it correct? And so I felt the need to still get on and talk about it, and just say, look, now, when somebody says that quote, you can't have liberty or security, and they mangle it, however they mangle it, you now know that it was actually written by Ben Franklin to the General Assembly in defense of pro-taxation collection for the security of the United States. So it wasn't something that's saying, hey, look, no security. It was saying, hey, look, you guys, you need security. We need to allow the government to legislate it. So this is something that we have to do. And you can't have both. You gotta allow them to have the funds or direct the funds to defend the nation. And the letter goes on to talk in detail about kind of the situation for what was going on. That was that there were landowners that had the land that was getting attacked was actually owned by the Penn family, and so Ben Franklin felt that it would behoove the legislator to have the power, as well as we need to be able to collect from our landowners to defend. So I'm not saying I take a position. Look, we need security. It's just that the quote's completely out of context and how it's used. So now you're going to look like a smarty pants. Next time someone says that, you can say, do your research. You don't know what the fucking quote was used for, and you're using it incorrectly, and you'll sound like a smarty ass like me. All right. But it does not mean that you can't use that quote incorrectly, meaning the quote stands on itself. And if you want to use that in some other context, fine. I'm not the arbiter of what is, what's proper, what's not. I just think it's more valid to explain the context of something if you're going to base a whole story on it, which is why I did that. All right. That part's done. Now let's get into why I want to talk about security. And that is one of the biggest, I'm going through something right now with my pug. Okay. I've got a pug. Her name's Delilah. Delilah the pug. Check her out. At one point, she was a large Instagram star. She had like 14,000 followers. We were going to shows and doing this stuff. It was the red carpet. And now she's about 8,000. And I got tired of being the pug guy. But she's a precious soul, and she's got some problems right now. I'm going to lay it on the line. She had an operation on her leg. And then we found out she's got some cancer on her face. And so, of course, it's stage 0, whatever the hell low-grade cancer it is, but we're still nervous. But as we're going through this, it's like an emotional experience. Like, my dog's got fucking cancer. And it's like, all right, I got to figure it out. And so you take him to the doctor, and the doctor's sitting there. And my thing is like, as a former salesperson, I know that this is a perfect opportunity to extract as much money out of us as possible. I'm not suggesting the veterinarian did that. She was wonderful. But it's an emotional moment because we're like, all right, whatever. You gun to the head. What do you want? What do you need? Tell me what you need, and we will do whatever it takes to keep our dog safe. And so at the moment of vulnerability, we'll take it. We don't care about anything. Just give us this medicine to do XYZ. You want our right leg, you want our left nut. That's fine. Take it. As long as our dog's healthy. What the hell does that mean in the context of what the fuck you're talking about before? It's an emotional moment. And so when somebody has an emotional moment, if you're in sales or a sales aficionado like myself, you understand that people buy based on emotion. They buy based on their feelings. And so if you can get someone to attach an emotion or a feeling to the transaction and get them emotionally invested, you won. You won. There's other tricks and blah, blah, blah. And by the way, if you want to learn sales techniques, I will help you. All you realtors out there hating on me, fucking call me up and sit down and have lunch with me. I'll show you some shit. No bullshit. Anyway, sounds like I'm on a high horse, right? But my inbox is full of angry realtors. And I'm like, guys, I'll help you. I'll show you the way. But instead, I'm just going to have to build a company to fucking take all the money. All right. So anyway, that is actually in the works. House me. All right. So the idea that, you're having this emotional response and somebody has something you need, you're willing to do whatever. I mean, the money thing doesn't come into play as much when we're talking about our child. My fur baby is having problems. And of course, if somebody says they have a solution, I don't say, oh, wow, okay, I need to quantify that. I'm usually just like, all right, take my shit, right? You'll do that for your children. Well, this is my little chillin'. My little fur baby chilling, got my DNA, got my pug nose. So when you're in emotion, like, I like to say gun to the head. I don't know why I'm sweating, by the way. Let me open the door again. So my larger point is that when you are kind of in need and you have an emotional, you have some kind of desperate situation, or you're in fear, oftentimes that's when you're willing to do something that you're not normally willing to do. And that is when the government oftentimes takes advantage. And so when I said earlier, like, don't let any crisis go to waste, that's because when a crisis happens, they know that somebody's going to need something. I don't know what the hell's going on. And what's going on with the heat in this place? Anyway, joking. Everything's fine. Bringing it back. Okay. Started out with the quote. You're like, what the fuck? The quote doesn't even mean what you're going to talk about. What are you going to talk about? Security. I'm telling you, I mean, the big thing that's bothering me right now is when people are essentially kind of manipulated emotionally, and then they're willing to make concessions or concede to things they normally wouldn't. It happens all the time. I mean, the Patriot Act is a perfect example. We conceded to basically domestic surveillance because we figured it would be safer. We did. We conceded that. That's what we kind of hoisted into the air. Like, all right, well, before, we didn't have this domestic, well, at least it wasn't published, this domestic spying program. Well, now we do. And we all said, we'll take it because, we were so scared. That is typically the modus operandi from government, from DC. And I'm not Mr. Anti-government. I'm Mr. Pro-government, make it work for people. But I hate when our legislators use crisis to kind of inflict poor legislation. What am I talking about? The TikTok ban is the dumbest fucking thing in the world. I'm not going to stop saying it because it's close to being done. It's just because the law passes and there's a lot of smart people saying it's a good thing. I don't care. There's nothing. So as I get into more and more growing this network, I can tell you from first personal experience as a software architect who understands the fucking technology. It's not just like, ooh, these are magic buttons. I could actually, a job interview might be, hey, build Facebook. And I would have to draw out a diagram to articulate how I would build that. So I'm not just saying this to those people that don't know. This is, just because you know how to design the system doesn't mean you can make the system or how complex it is. But reverse engineering Facebook isn't this fucking big ass tough thing that people, it takes time and resources, but you could build a Facebook clone if you really wanted to. Obviously the network takes time and everything else. So my point of all this, it's not like it's a black box. I don't understand it. I'm just saying this because it's like, oh, I don't understand that stuff. I'm telling you, TikTok is superior in every way, technically. Every way. With one exception, their downtime and their scaling. They're not that good there. They sometimes go down. They have 404s. I've noticed that. But as far as edge detection, meaning like content detection, content coming in the network, they detect duplicate content right when it comes in, and they basically their algorithm degrades that. And so you're going to have more diverse thought in TikTok than you're going to Facebook. If you don't believe me, go start a brand new Facebook account and see what the fuck your feed looks like. You have it. You probably had your Facebook account for a while, but you don't know what users are getting. When users start a new Facebook account, they're bombarded with crap. I mean, pure crap. Not New York Times, not Washington Post, not Fox News even, or not even news organizations that are right-wing, which, again, you're literally given memes and bullshit, just junk with a million followers. So there's a large group think kind of coming at you, the steamroller saying, hey, everyone on this platform is like this. And so you're either like, oh, this is crazy, and you run, or you embrace it and you jump into the bubble. And if you've been on Facebook for a while, you've kind of carved out your own bubble, and you don't know this, but I will tell you that the default spam list that Facebook gives you is complete shit and has nothing to do. Start a brand new account. Go ahead. If you can. Apparently it's difficult if you're a real person, but if you're a bot, it's near fucking like it takes a second to create an account. Why am I saying all this? Because when it comes to the TikTok ban and the security of our country, they're not even the same. It's a fear factor play. It is Facebook threatened, number one. It's congressmen saying, hey, let's fucking enrich ourselves because we know what's going to happen when we ban TikTok. So let's buy Meta stock. True story. This is folks that are looking at the messaging that's happening on TikTok and say, we can't control that. Okay, that's fucked up. We got this this Palestine, the Gaza war going on, and we have a lot of folks that aren't aligned with our perspective on this platform. Not a good thing, especially with the youths. And by the way, I love the kids right now. The kids are killing it. Fucking shut down those universities. I don't give a shit. Make it inconvenient for me. Make me miss my flight. Do whatever you got to fucking do. I don't give a shit. Shut it all fucking down if you have to. Fucking people are getting murdered in fucking broad daylight. I love the fact that our youth are just shutting down shit. Keep going. I'm rooting for you. I'm too fucking lazy to come out and fucking protest with you, but I'm fucking loving every minute of it. I promise you, I'm loving it. But TikTok is where the youth are. If I look at my distribution on Facebook, it's like 35 and up. That's it. There's a little bit of sliver down below, but it's 35 and up. That's who's on Facebook. If you're on this platform, you're an old fogey, okay? I'm sorry. The young folks are on Snapchat and Instagram and other shit. So Facebook has become this kind of place where it's like an echo chamber of conservative bullshit. And they also are very prone to disinformation. And so what's everyone doing about that? Nothing. They're banning TikTok. Facebook has more users, more influence, but TikTok needs banned. Why? Come on. Stop repeating that security shit. Someone has a gun to your head and they're saying, hey, security, don't you, you like the Chinese? You need to ban TikTok. Go do a Google search of all the Chinese organizations that are in the United States that are owned by China. Should we shut them all down, or is that what we want to do? Do we want to create a financial war with China now? It's mind-boggling that this is coming to mainstream, and that the Congress people have actually bought into this total shit. Now, of course, if I'm a Congressperson and I know by banning TikTok that this other stock's going to go up and I buy it, what kind of fucking douchebag shithole person am I? I mean, this is what we're electing. Look at your congressperson. Most likely, if they voted for the TikTok ban, there's a good chance they purchased some Meta stock. And if they didn't, their colleagues are saying, you fucking idiot, because that's how you do around here. So those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. That quote comes to mind. It's like, we're literally saying, hey, by the way, it's security. You need security. This, again, the original intent for the use of the quote was this. But national security, that's the only thing they're saying. A fucking iPhone app. So it's not like it's a phone. It's an app that exists on the phone, inside a walled iOS garden or an Android garden. And they're saying that it's a security vector. So what that means is that me having a developer license, if I decide to go rogue, I now have a vector to take down the United States by writing a nefarious app and putting it in the App Store and then watching as America crumbles. I mean, Jesus fucking Christ. Does that make sense even when you say it? Like, okay, so it's 2029 and we're all speaking Mandarin. You know why? Because of fucking TikTok, man. The TikTok. I mean, does that even make sense? I'm actually more inclined to align with the people that are scared of the invasion across the border, which is wild and wacky shit, than this. So what I'm saying, let me be clear. I'm more inclined to believe the total fantasy bullshit that a group of immigrants who are not well organized, have no weapons, are invading us. I'm more inclined to believe that than this bullshit about TikTok. I mean, it's so stupid. It's like, guys, it's almost like if you came in my office and you lived, you'd never seen civilization for years and years and years, and you came in and you're like, wow, this is a building and everything else. And then I flipped on the light and you were just like, holy shit, you'd never seen it. Now, you would think I'm a god if you didn't understand the mechanisms of how that worked and the fact that there's electricity and everything else. It's magical, and I could scare you and say, watch this, and boom, boom, boom. And that person's like, oh my gosh, you have control of the entire world with and it's a fucking light switch, okay? But that's what they're doing with TikTok. They're acting as if this thing, by the way, is so scary. But when you look behind it, it's not scary, and there's nothing to be scared of other than the big players in the room that are trying to kick out little brother that's actually allowing free speech. That is at the core of this TikTok ban. It's money and free speech. And if you think it's anything else about Chinese, you need leave a comment. Tell me exactly how China's going to, how they're going to exploit that. Now, if you're going to say that, for instance, Facebook, when Russia exploited, there's a difference in how that works, because somebody owns an app doesn't mean they're the ones that are going to exploit it. Now, here's the other thing. People are like, well, Nate, you're not making sense. Now you lost me. All right, let me be clear. When Facebook had its problems with Russia, we knew it was easy to see they were going in there, an American company, and injecting large amounts of money into advertising to do certain things. It was easy to track. There's no record of China basically going in there and saying, hey, this is how your feed's going to go. And by the way, you can control your feed. You can't control your feed on Facebook. You can control your feed on TikTok. That's a basic thing people don't understand. You can literally decide who your friends are on Facebook or on TikTok. On Facebook, as of late, you can't even decide whether you follow something or not. They automatically assign you follows now to groups. True story. So you're not in control of your profile. Point in case, my Instagram right now still down. I can post from Business Manager. They can't seem to get my Instagram back to working on my phone, even though I have access to the account. I can do everything. And when they were going through this whole thing, my account was locked. And then I realized when they opened it up, I couldn't even like things or do anything. So I had no control over it. So bringing it back home, when I think about security and liberty and this quote that came to mind, I think, how much the kind of movement of emotion is used to manipulate people. And in the case of TikTok, people just hear Chinese and scary and Chinese, and that must be the communist place. And it's owned by, TikTok's owned by China. And they think, oh my gosh, I'm scared. And then all you got to do is just say, well, we'll ban it. Okay. All right. So now just because you've ginned up my fear high enough, where now you're going to also provide the solution. I mean, this is genius. I gin up the fear so high. Think about this. I get you scared of something that you weren't scared of before. And now what do? I provide you the solution. And I come down and I say, I am your solution. And I come down kind of like the Messiah and I say, I have provided you salvation in your fear. But then I also, probably 10 minutes before, I was like, yo, you should be really scared of that shit. That shit's going to fuck you up. Don't fucking fuck with that shit. You better fucking come talk to me because you're going to be fucking scared. So that's the thing. We're having legislators gin up fear, enough fear that they can get the masses to believe it, and then just strike some legislation down, throw it down on the mat, make some money on the side because they know that's going to take this company down. This company's going to benefit. And all under the guise of security, while simultaneously squelching fucking First Amendment. You know what I mean? That's kind of the whole thing. So I am fired up about the TikTok. As you know, I'm trying to grow Smash the Party back to where it was in its heyday, the golden days. And as we get there, I'm learning more and more about how these networks work, and I'm learning more and more about the advantages of TikTok. The other thing I will say is that because of TikTok doing what it's doing, Facebook's now doing some cool shit, believe it or not. So the other day I look at my thing, it's like, you got earnings. I'm like, what do you mean earnings? Well, Facebook is now paying for posts. Okay. I mean, I've been posting a lot of stuff. I've had posts that have gone, 10,000 clicks or whatever. I've had some posts that did pretty well. And I all of a sudden now I have like $3 in my account. I'm like, what the fuck is this $3? I did nothing. I didn't do any effort. So now Facebook's paying for content now. They're actually kind of realizing that when TikTok goes away, all the creators can be like, you suck, Facebook. TikTok paid us well. Instead, you're just pounding, building up Mark Zuckerberg's wallet when they could be using that money to pay content creators. You're like, what the fuck? I don't care about content. Look, there's a whole ecosystem that exists that you might not like or care about. I learned about it, the whole YouTube, all these influencers, all this shit that's crazy. And it's all like, pretty much advertising in your face. There's a whole monetization model behind each of these influencers. And then depending on your level, you have capability to earn a real living and provide, and then put money back into the local economy. So it's not like you're just like, these people are making money and they're just running off to China. These are Americans making money on an online job. And so you're starting to see the other networks say, oh shit, no wonder TikTok succeeded so well. They paid their creators, not just the top 1%. They'll pay the fucking ones that are just coming in, trickling in. You can actually earn a living. My TikTok thing right now says that if I were to do all the things, it's like $200 a month. I have 1,000 fucking followers. That's significant. That's significant money for doing nothing but like sitting there on your phone and growing a network. And so I know I'm all over the place, but I kind of go off on this point because it's so frustrating to see what they did with TikTok and then them use this emotional bullshit about security to suggest that we got to ban TikTok. And there's not one legislator that can articulate anything about security. I don't even know if they're please maybe post a link in my link. But like, are there anyone that even understands tech in there? Well, you know, we got doctors and we've got like, you know, lawyers and all, you know, galore. But I'm just wondering, like, where's the tech people in there? Do we have any tech bros in there that actually understand it? Not the bullshit. I sat through a couple conferences. I'm like someone who knows, writes software, understands it, understands like architecture, understands user experience, understands data capture, understands data security. Like none of that. That shit is way beyond all these people that think the internet's a bunch of tubes. So not only do we have them ginning up the fear to then get the legislation they want to ban this competitor of Facebook, but they do this with a straight face and suggest that they're doing it for our protection. And it's a bunch of old people that don't use TikTok. There's a couple legislators on TikTok right now that I love. They're absolutely awesome. They're killers. I don't even know if they're Republican or Democrat, to be honest with you, but they're killers and I love it. And they're right there in the mix. If you look, remember when I talked about my Facebook demographic, 35 and up? TikTok is like the other space. That's 35 and down. So if you're trying to reach people, you should be on TikTok. Unless you just want to reach old folks like me. And most likely, most old folks like me aren't as fucking hip and cool as me. So they're fucking shit. No, I love you guys. I'm just joking. My point is that, you know, the idea that we're going to lose TikTok because of some bullshit ginned up crap. We're losing freedom because somebody's implying that we're going to be more secure. And it means it's not even close. And like I said, this whole thing was, you know, I wanted to kind of be like, lay out the baseline quote and kind of build my whole story and wrap a nice bow around, you know, this live stream and say, did a live stream on security, liberty, and boom. And the quote backs it up, but the quote fell apart. But what doesn't fall apart? What never falls apart is the idea of questioning when you're in a position where you need something or you're in a position where you're in trouble. That is unfortunately when other humans will take advantage. And I brought the whole cancer thing up with my pug because I'm sitting there watching the doctor and she was perfectly doing the best sales job you can. And wasn't wrong of her to do this, but she's literally knowing we're emotionally vested and numbers aren't going to scare us. It'd be one thing if it was something we didn't care about, but since we were able to, we wanted to do whatever, and it sucks, but we're going to be putting them, you know, throwing the money at this problem because we love the pug, right? That's the whole fucking point of doing that. But it's also kind of, you know, you sit there and you watch and I know I can see the sales person coming out of her and you can tell she's kind of qualifying us as well. That's something you do when you're selling somebody, you're qualifying, finding out what they can afford or if you can get them emotionally invested. And at that point, you know, she says, hey, it's going to be $14 million. We're like, okay, all right, we'll sell the house. We'll move. Okay. All right. Yep. I mean, we're emotionally invested, right? So, all right, well, the security of the United States is at risk because China owns TikTok. Okay. Well, I wasn't scared of it. Well, you should be scared of it. And here's why you should be scared of it. No one has told me why I should be scared of China, like being a security vector, by the way. But because of China being the big bad person we always talk about in every context, as opposed to what we have here, which is capitalism, it's already bad. So throwing China in there, ooh, it's China, it's foreign, it's somebody else. It must be bad. So, you know, that's what they've done to China. They've made it seem like we'll take all their products, we'll take them, we'll allow them to generate all our tech products. But when it comes to actually kind of integrating with China, they're big and bad. And by the way, someone's got to start explaining to me, I know this is going to go real well, why and what China's doing to fuck with Nate Bomberger. Like me, not the United States, not anyone else, but like, tell me why Nate Bomberger should hate fucking China. Tell me why I should hate Iran. Tell me why I should hate fucking Russia. I know why I should hate Russia because they fucking supported Trump and fuck them. Maybe China does too, but maybe they were not as bold. And plus Putin's an asshole. But They also invaded a country illegally. And by the way, Chinese, there's many reasons to not like some of the things the Chinese government's doing, but why is this whole, why are we painting these broad strokes over these countries without really digging in? And so I know that one's not going to age well, but I think my larger point is that you can't just take their word for it. You can't just say, okay, well, what are the Palestinians doing? Like, why are they living in squalor, but they're all of a sudden this big force and horrible? Like, you just got to wonder, like, wait, so how much money do we give Palestine for their defense? None? Okay. So wait, we give money to Israel for their defense? Okay. I mean, so somehow already see a power imbalance. Okay. So it just logically, people are telling me, oh, this is the way it should be. And then of course I don't agree. And then the fear comes in. Nate, you got to fear it. Well, because this, and you got to, we got to protect, they're our ally. And if there's sacrosanct and all this bullshit, which is underlying base religion shit. I'm not anti-Israel, by the way. I'm not even going there. My point is that it's another opportunity for folks to use fear to kind of push a perspective on you and suggest that because, and look, we have a lot of American Jews live in Israel. And so Israel is very connected to the United States. And so when something happens to Israel, it feels like, because of how we work with them, it feels like it's happening to us. So we take the hits with them and then we do the punches with them. And one of the problems with that is, depending on their government's intentions, we may or may not be supporting the right intention. And that is that's a whole nother debate. Getting back to the core of this one, the quote sucks. I was about ready to misuse it completely. I'm still going to misuse it because I think it's relevant. Mosquito. I think it's relevant, but I hope I'm not sweating too bad. But I also, I just wanted to kind of hone in on the other piece, which is that, be very wary of boogeymen and the party, or if your party decides to create boogeymen, which are people that you need to be scared of, I can guarantee you there's the next thing that's coming is you need to be scared of that thing because we need to do this thing. And then when you look at the reason why they do that thing, there's a very high probability that thing may be because cha-ching ching, right? So just start asking questions. Don't just roll along with it. The TikTok ban, think about it. Think about a phone app and what can happen on a phone app. You could make the same argument with Facebook, but the difference was that the Russian government was injecting misinformation. There's no evidence China is injecting misinformation into your feed. We have evidence that Republicans were linking up with Russia and they were manipulating the Facebook algorithm to their advantage. And to the point where Facebook actually removed a lot of the capabilities that existed before 2016. Look it up. Used to be able to do a lot more what's called sentiment analysis, which means depending on the emotional state of somebody, you could send them certain things. So they rolled away from that. But meaning, like, so they could trigger you, get you mad, do exactly what I just said. Think about it. They can get you mad online, and then once you're mad, then provide the solution. They could do that constantly, and that's not uncommon. You're talking about marketing, right? Right? I mean, what's marketing? What's propaganda? What's the difference, right? It depends on who is labeling it. I don't know. I'm not that smart tonight, but let me bring it back to kind of wrapping, and then I'll close for the night. I'm not happy about the TikTok ban, but I think the larger the point that I'm making is that I'm a vigilante on the emotional triggers. I know I get triggered like a motherfucker about dumb shit, and I have to check myself. I have a little thing that I've been doing lately. It's like my Bob Ross moment. I literally, when I'm angry or something's bothering me, I'm like, all right, we just need a little flower there, maybe a little bit of snow there, a little bit of maybe a little tree there. And I say this out loud like a psychopath because I'm fucking raging, and it sounds better than just fuck. But I think, I've been trying to do a better job of kind of measuring my triggers and saying, all right, liberals do it all the time. I get a ton of stuff that's like, oh, that makes me mad. And then I want to do something about it, which is fine, right? You want to motivate people. But what are you doing about it? Are you just lashing out at somebody else? You're just going online and just ripping somebody's asshole. That's not really doing anything. But that kind of activism is something that the other side wants you to feel like you're doing something, because you're like, get you mad. All right, then you just posted something. Now you feel good. You block that guy. What changed? Nothing. You're on a fucking social media platform. Nothing changed. Nothing's changing with this, by the way. You're like, well, Nate, what are you doing? My hope is to get this little pebble to a big rock where it fucking makes a splash. That's it. I know it's futile, but it also is good for me. So it's therapy. But the larger kind of perspective that I have today on this is that we are always kind of at risk of being emotionally manipulated. And when it's coming from state actors or your own government, you have to kind of put a full stop to that and say, you know what? I need more information. You need to provide information for me. And no one's really asking that question. Like, please walk me through exactly why TikTok and not Facebook are security risks because of the ownership. So what? They have my data. They already have my, you think China doesn't have my data? Come on, guys, stop playing around. Like, I'm a software engineer. Like, I don't write data. I did some lead gen stuff, but I don't write data trackers and things like that. But if that was my thing, Christ, I would have everything. I mean, Nate, your job now is to write software that tracks people. Okay, I'm doing it full time. Trust me, I'm very creative. I'll find ways to get information from you. So I'm not even a state government. So the idea that your information is not just out there, stop. I'm not talking about your health records. I'm talking about basic information that you put on these social profiles is out there. You're not incognito. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. And honestly, I've come to the conclusion on privacy that it's going to be considered a thing of the past. I mean, privacy is not going to, like, the things that we think that we hold private, like my social security, all this data about my demographic, all this, that stuff it will eventually come the time where we'll be like, you know what? It's so easy to get this data. There's no reason to even call it privacy anymore. Cause like my magical scanner that you walk past my store basically hooked into everything that you're wearing and got your whole profile. So the idea that people are like, oh, my privacy. I mean, privacy is kind of one of those things where it's like, Now, I'm saying a couple different things here that are conflicting. And that is like, you're kind of on one end poo-pooing privacy. On the other end, you're saying that there is no risk with TikTok. I mean, I think those two things are true. I do think that we're going to evolve to the point where privacy is not going to be an issue, which is why I'm trying to figure out what the security vector that they're talking about is with TikTok. I don't know. It's not manipulation because they're not injecting things into your feed. So if it's data aggregation, you supply that. You don't supply them with a lot, and then they track it just like every other app that exists in the planet. But what they do with that information, okay, tell me what you're doing with that information. They're not doing anything with it. They've never been sued for doing stuff or reselling that information. Facebook has. But Facebook's got lobbies. All right. Well, listen, we're going to wrap tonight because I'm sweating. I don't know why, but maybe it's, I know they had some air conditioning issues here. But I want to also kind of do the same thing I do all the time, and that's give a thanks. My numbers are fucking awesome. All right. I'm not just saying that. They're good. They're fantastic. I spent a total of $30 on TikTok one time, and my Facebook's doing well. My the Smashing the Party on Facebook's doing well. Instagram's doing well. Like, I mean, percentages are off the charts. So thank you a lot. I got to my last goal, which was getting my personal profile to 5,000 users. I got that over the weekend. So now I can do some shit with that. There's all kinds of things I can do on that'll allow me to grow my reach. So this might not be your cup of tea, folks. And you may think that from time to time, it's total shit what I do, but I love it. And I love the support. And I want to say thank you because quite frankly, like there was nothing more I was looking forward to doing than getting on tonight. And oftentimes that's the case. I really do look forward to it. And where it becomes grindy is the kind of fighting the systems and the whole, how do I get eyeballs on this? That's the grindy, sucky part. But when I'm on the camera and I'm kind of just riffing and letting my brain flow, this is what I love doing this. And I would love to have a forum where I could just do this for hours and hours and hours. I could fucking run a marathon on it. I promise you. but I just want to say thank you. And I know that I've kind of gone back and forth and waffled on kind of the direction of this. There's some new stuff coming that I've been talking about that I'm cobbling together. I'm going to make it happen for you before your movie premiere, I promise. But there's other stuff that I'm working on that takes time. But the patience and the amount of support I get is awesome. And honestly, it surprisingly comes from places I never even thought it would have came from. So I just want to say thank you. I've hit every single goal that I've stated. I just want to be clear. Every single goal I've stated on this show, I've hit, is with the exception of when I took time off. But every single metric that I've tried to hit. And the reason I'm saying that is because you can have confidence I'm going to continue this time. I'm not going to go away from it. My goal is now to get to 1 million reach. I want to get to 1 million reach. I was at 120,000 before. I get to 1 million. That is me I'm just going to be celebrating. And I don't see why I can't. And it's not because it's going to give me fame and fortune. Promise you that. There's people with 1 million followers on YouTube that have very little income. I don't know what they're doing with their shit. So don't think this is like some monetary play for me. It's really because I give a shit and I do enjoy talking about things and learning things with you, as well as yelling and screaming about shit I don't like. All right. So thank you for supporting me. Our next goal is to get to 10,000. It's a big one. It honestly could take a couple years. So I'm not going to be doing things the way I wanted to. I'm not going to just be paying Facebook to throwing money at Facebook for just getting, random people that aren't interested. I'm looking for people that are motivated by the message, motivated by kind of what I'm saying, motivated by the spirit of what I'm saying. And so my next goal is to get all my platforms to 10,000. And that means, look, at YouTube, I'm at 44. So, I mean, it's a lot, right? But I think I need to put it in the universe and let people know what I'm trying to do so I can get there. So 10,000 on every platform. That means Twitter, that means Instagram, that means Facebook, and that means TikTok and whatever else is out there. I want to pretty much have 10,000 users. And it's tough because each platform kind of works itself. So what I'm counting on is you. And I've counted on you and you guys. Back to when I was doing subscriptions, I had a significant amount of people that were giving me subscriptions enough that it was like 50, 75 bucks a month. Okay. It's not a lot. And again, I'm not looking for the monetary thing here, but I just want to grow this. So I can't say it enough, but thank you. I think I went a little bit long on this ask, but it's just so amazing to me that when I do, this is hard work and I'm kind of all over the place. I'm a little bit flaky with certain things and I'm fluttery, but I promise you there's a driving force. And that is like, I really believe in fairness. I believe in equality. I truly believe everyone should have the opportunity to live the life they want and not be held down by the shitty ass systems we have. So if this is a message you can get behind, sometimes I'm going to say some shit you don't agree with. Fucking deal with it. Fucking throw the money there, throw the like, give me a follow, share it, say this guy's an asshole, give me a comment. Trust me, even the hate, I'm no longer blocking complete dumbass comments on Smashing the Party. So if you want to say something really stupid, there's a chance it makes it through. Now, if it doesn't pass the value test, meaning if there's not a logical reason for that comment, it's just like you're an N-word or you're a fuck or you're a libtard, it gets deleted. I just don't have time for that. And people are going to argue, well, you're fucking up your, I don't care. I want my pages to have clean. So when someone lands on the page, they can see real things. Not bullshit. Maybe they see a real argument, but they're not seeing things that are fake. And I've actually had people come to the page and say, oh, your stuff, you don't have all the spam that other places have, because I curate it. So all that being said, I want to say thank you. My next goal is going to be to put out the gauntlet on 10,000 and see if we can get there. And when we get there, it's going to be exciting. But again, what it does for this platform, it allows me to have more reach and spread the message. And if you agree with the message, you want to see that. If you disagree with the message, maybe you don't want to see the message get out, but maybe you'll appreciate the fact that I'm open to learning about your view. And if you have the data to convince me that I'm wrong, I'm happy to lose that argument, because it means that my wrong assumption means that going against my wrong assumption means it's better for everyone. So I win still. I win if I'm right. Ooh, Nate feels good when he's right. but I'm wrong. And then Nate gets a benefit because everyone's lifted up. Okay. I will be wrong. I will be wrong all day long if everything I'm saying is completely wrong, but someone does the opposite and it just fucking changes humanity for the better. Okay. Okay. I'll take it. I think that's it. I'm sweating like a pig, and it's Monday. Hopefully you had a good weekend. Do want to give a plug for, there's no reason other than because I enjoyed it. I went to a comedy show this weekend put on by NPR. It was called Wait, Stand Up Tour. And, you know, look, if you don't know, I do have an affinity for stand up. I've done stand up a couple times, been shut down by the fucking locals for stand up. We'll talk about that story because it was too controversial. But I'm a big fan of stand up, and I think that if no matter what your political leaning is, go check that out. The other thing I appreciated was that they do a really good job. You know, they kind of talk candidly about their process of trying to be fair on NPR. And I think that if you don't listen to NPR or you're a hater of NPR, I think you should give it a second try because, quite frankly, that really impressed me. I love that they have a driving force that says we're going to try to be neutral. They might not hit it all the time. It's humans. It's humans. It's perspective. It's thought. It's the battle of ideas, right? And so everyone has a little bit of skin in the game. But I do want to say that I enjoyed it, and I would certainly encourage you to support local radio and NPR. All right, so not just Nate Bomberger, do that shit because we want more open, nonpartisan, publicly funded information sources because those are the ones that we can hold accountable, not the private organizations. All right. I'm going to check in tomorrow at 10:30 like I do. We're going to be on every day this week, Monday through Thursday, 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I do this shit. Sometimes it's spicier. Sometimes I make more sense. Sometimes I'm more coherent. Either way, check it out. You don't have to watch it at 10:30, by the way. I look and I see people on here and I get nervous. So I usually expect no one's watching me live. And then I usually get the views the next day or over the following weeks. So I know this is late, but I appreciate everyone that's been supporting me. And please continue. I mean it when I say, like, this is dreamy for me to be able to do this. And when I get on here and I'm feeling the flow, even though I'm looking like a sweaty pig and I'm all over the place, something happens in my brain and it just kicks in and I love it. So please continue to support it. And I will see you guys tomorrow at 10:30. My hope is the sound work today. We'll see. See if we can do a nice break. I'm not going to do anything fancy to end it. Was I on that the whole time?